Welcome to the second final part of the BLiNX 100% walkthrough with all S ranks and cap medals. Everwinter is quite the place, because this is where we get really long time limits, lots of cap medals, anywhere in the game, and lots of environmental hazards, and then ice physics, and new enemies right off the bat. We have here a typhoon and an ice turtle, according to the Japanese strategy guide. Both are rather interesting to take care of. Typhoons, despite the fact they cannot hurt you, are in fact very annoying since they like to disappear and do other such things. I usually like to get rid of them first, especially since they're usually off in a convenient corner to hit. But otherwise, they can present quite a threat, and they can be one of the most annoying things to have to run from. Ice turtles, just make sure you're far away from them. Now, as for the ice physics in this game, or in this round rather, I'll explain a little bit of what I like to do with this line in the couple portions where you have to run through doors. A lot of people would probably prefer to use time controls to get through that door, but I like to save myself the time and just run on through. The issue with that is, what can often happen is you will, yes, the beauty level through trash. What will often happen is you will end up falling over. The way I alleviate that is I do not hold the control stick forward the entire time. What makes you fall in this level, in this round as a whole, when sliding on ice, is holding the control stick in any direction for too long. So what I like to do is I hold the control stick in whatever direction that I want to run in, and then I let go of it for a moment, about a second or so. And then I push forward again, and I hold up on it, and I just kind of repeat that pattern. And I don't lose much speed, thankfully, because the ice is very, very slippery, as you have probably noticed. This is the point at which, though, enemies become less of a threat, and it's more about the environmental hazards that you have to worry about. Especially some certain collapsing things in certain later portions of the level of the round, but we'll have some other things to worry about as well, believe me. If you can sit on any trash by accident, or on purpose for that matter, like I did there as I stood on a wheel, it also helps, I suppose. This, oh dear, there we go. Something nice about ice turtles is they can actually prove to be helpful, interestingly enough. Their explosions can actually hurt other enemies. I'm not quite sure if it hit that spike on the other hand. Oh. And the one time I would have liked to get bombs, though to be fair, this gives you a ludicrous amount of gold if you accidentally get the gold. But bombing everything that's in your way isn't too bad either. Of course, the game has to be so nice as to have, come on, cracks opening out that your gold can fall into, so it might not be a bad idea to be defensive about it. Anyhow. The wonderful thing about these level 3, I believe it is, level 3 spikers is that, like the chrono blobs, they get a lot faster as they get more powerful. So you need to be right on top of these spikers because they do not leave themselves vulnerable for a very long time at all. As you'll see it right about here, actually. This is where I have some trouble with them. But notice that I try to avoid getting attention to other spikers until I've actually gotten rid of the typhoon. Because having 3 things to run from at once is not fun. Spikers are pretty high on the priority list of things to try to not get hit by, for me. God, well, 4 spikers, that's what they are. I don't even know how I got hit there, honestly. Not that I don't think I should have gotten hit, it's more that I don't know what I was doing and why I wasn't trying to get away. But spikers oftentimes put you in this position of having to dance around them almost. And is particularly unfun to try to do, especially when you have multiple spikers at once. So because there's so much of a handful, I try to prioritize getting rid of them quickly, unless I have something else like a typhoon to get rid of first. I like to get rid of before anything else notices me. Alright, so here I like to run off to the right hand side of the little lake. If you try to run directly for the door, you'll just end up falling in the water. You can curve around and try to get in before the door closes on the right. Since the door opens with the hinge on the left, it's also the best position to be in anyhow, because it's where you can get in as it closes. Try to remember that these guard doors now take 3 hits instead of 2, as I did not realize. There you go. And then you can have a nice little lazy finish just standing in place. So, you can see that here it's really all about just mastering the environment and being able to move around properly. That really makes this area Everwinter a challenge, not quite the enemies themselves, as annoying as spikers can be, along with the new enemy types they've also encountered. Anyhow, this area in particular, for some reason, Everwinter really likes hiding the cat medals off ledges just out of sight. You'll see that in a few different places. You might have noticed, as well, that I picked up 16 ton weight, which I'll mention in a moment. But, yet again, following the theme of things being just off the ledge, there you go, right by those 2 spikers. But, going a little bit forward to those 2 spikers again, we have that 60 ton weight that I stocked up and used rather happily on the level 4 spiker, and look at that. Lots more fun stuff. And then, because we have 4 cat medals here, we have something more to find though. If you go past the goal ring, you can find some nice trash, actually, that's kind of hard to make use of because you're already past the end of the level. But, if nothing else, you can get a nice little cat medals consolation prize. Now, onto another longer level, you notice that I'm actually taking a good few minutes now to complete a level. And that is because it's, in fact, a long level now. That's why the S rank requirement is ludicrously high. Full 7 minutes to work with is an incredible amount of time, believe me. And what might still feel like a long level, it's a lot more than you need. I do like to try to keep level 2 trash in the front of my sweeper, at the top of my queue. So you might notice I do that there in a strange order, but it allows you to do things like this, where I get rid of all enemies pretty effectively, pretty quickly. The more quickly you can get rid of an enemy, the more quickly it stops being an issue, and the more quickly you can get through the room, I find. So that's why I try to prioritize heavy hitting trash first. Anyways, you'll notice I try to dance around some environmental hazards in some interesting ways here. For example, when that platform crumbles, I just jump off to the side of the slide. Here, I can sometimes manage this, sometimes not. That tends not to work out for me. It's either good to just use a pause, although then you have to wait for... Why did I do that? But then you have to wait for the pause to run out and then use another pause to get through the spike gate here. What I like to do is, I found a little trick, is if you jump onto the part that crumbles, instead of just sliding onto it and then trying to jump, you jump onto the part that crumbles, and then jump immediately again. Oftentimes you can actually do a single jump and then do a double jump afterwards. What makes it difficult to get across that portion is, aside from the fact that the part that crumbles is rather long, oftentimes if you try to jump as it crumbles, you also end up doing a double jump instead of a single jump. And as a result, you can't do another double jump in midair afterwards, and you won't be able to clear the gap. All in all though, it's not a big time saver, so if all you're going for is an S rank, it's not a big concern anyhow. Aha! I'm doing crafty, I pick up some of these time crystals now, but unfortunately, can't get... There we go. Everything I want. Now, do be prepared with time controls in Everwinter as a whole, if it hasn't become clear already. Aside the fact that you really want to have pauses to get through some spike doors and whatnot, and to potentially get past some hazards, you also need some rewinds to repair some potential breaks in the ground that you might not be able to get past otherwise, especially if you don't manage to skip them on your first try. And if you want to get a cat medal, you can have a fast forward in this room too, as you can see with the machine over there. Thankfully, with all the enemies in these levels being such high level enemies, they drop lots of time crystals as well. but that still means you need to manage to pick up the proper time controls in the first place. I try to make up, oh man, some stuff here, but it'd be kind of difficult at times. You can see here that there doesn't seem to be much of a way of getting across. Well, you can use a rewind here to get across, which is what I highly recommend. But you can actually get really crafty and use that car there, that giant junk car. Shoot it against that snowman, and if you do it just right, the car will actually hang mostly over that ledge, and you can platform across the car to the next part. It can save you getting stuck, and prevent you from being unable to complete the level otherwise if you don't happen to have a rewind of that part. Everwinter is definitely the place where I've had the most issues with having to restart a level because I don't have what I need to continue. Of course, it has to hide behind the slide. Ugh. I try to keep using my aiming technique I described in earlier episodes for hitting enemies that are far away there, but not to the best success, as you can see. Now, I might be missing. I believe there's actually a typhoon over here. Off to the right. Yeah, there it is. Thankfully, you can actually hit those things when you wouldn't think you could. You can hit typhoons pretty much until they've completely turned into a little cyclone. Which lasts a little bit longer than you'd think, but you should still go after them as soon as you can, really. And then a lowly gargoyle. You can see here that I actually try to keep from wasting any trash. And what I like to do is suck a piece of trash every time I shoot something. Although that turns out to not be necessary because I was paying attention to how many enemies are left in the top right corner. I don't need any trash for all these. But not a bad idea to have as much as you can anyhow if it's not going to waste any time, which it often does. It's also good to know the level to know in case there are any level 1 enemies ahead of you that you don't want to use trash on as well. I find that even though there's a shortcut here with the spike door, there's not much point to use the spike door because you still need to go past the spike door to get some enemies instead of just going through it. Namely that guard door that we passed by to get to where we are now. So I'm not quite sure how to use that beneficially. Run! Yeah. I find it to be one of the most perilous ice turtles since it's in a small corridor where you can't really hit from afar. But doesn't mean it's going to pose an issue. This is, I'd probably say the second most annoying stage here in Everwinter. Maybe, possibly the most annoying, actually. It's really just difficult to compare stages 2 and 3 because they're both very annoying for some very different reasons. Here it's because things keep tumbling, but then again, the next one has some of that too. Yeah, I'd say stage 3 is kind of the worst one, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Look at all that trash I did not need to suck up. Getting cat medals requires some pretty interesting exploration, actually. Some areas that you would not really go to otherwise in any way, and some areas that give you a lot of trash, actually. This area is so kind as to compensate you for the pause you have to use. It's actually an interesting way of getting past the requirement of sliding down the first portion, since it just drops you down to the next area instead of having you take the normal route. Anyhow, I mentioned before that if you happen to have a fast forward on hand, you can just use a pure machine to pick up another cat medal. And look at that. I told you there would be lots of cat medals just hanging off the ledges for some reason. Now, you might have noticed this actually when I was going through the first time. This is yet another area they have no reason to go to normally, but hey, there happens to be a cat medal here. And some bombs if that's your sort of thing, but I can't say much care for them. Run off to the other side, however. Whoop. Here it is, a shiny new cat medal just for you. And like almost all cat medals, it seems like, in Everwinter for some reason, you have to suck it up off of a ledge. Anyhow, in a stage 3, the not so fun stage, and definitely the longest one. And the longest S-rank time requirement in the game, a ludicrous 8 minutes. Basically, if you're not cutting it close to the 10-minute mark, you're pretty okay here. Hello. I don't mind using a level 1 trash on this Gardor at first because I can just use a level 2 immediately afterwards. If it's 3 hits, it doesn't matter which order I'm using the trash in, even though I usually like to keep level 2 stuff in front. But the reason I was saying this is one of the more annoying stages is because you really need to watch your trash during some parts of it, particularly towards the end. So wasting trash like I'm doing right here is not something you want to be doing! Hitting bombs isn't necessarily bad as long as they don't hit you. Of course, if they don't hit anything of interest to you, then it's not very much help. This is actually a pretty good place for using some records if you're willing, which for some reason or another I never do. I just never use it for anything other than saving time, despite the fact that it effectively doubles your trash. And I'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the area that you actually have a pretty decent threat of running out of trash in. But for now, don't need to worry about anything. Try to keep as much trash on hand at any given point though, so that you can avoid having to jump down into the unimportant areas that don't actually lead you anywhere useful. Now this has one of the best... Oh! If you want to get that money, just go and grab it before you attack the turtle. Because if you hit that ice turtle, that money is going all over the place. But this is one of the best, by far, shortcuts in the game right here. Now you can see here, there's an octopus I can hit. In fact, a couple enemies I can hit, which I'd like to hit, if I could. They have very strange hitboxes, evidently. Speaking of wasting trash, anyhow, what I like to do is I like to hit them from here. And then you can see, we have a 16-ton weight over here. There's another reason to have a level 3 sweeper. And in fact, the reason it's nice to have an ultimate sweeper here is so you can have a level 3 sweeper that can also get rid of that water dragon very quickly. Especially since, like I said, you only can serve trash here. Because what happens here is not only do you get a 16-ton weight here, and some money if you're greedy like I am, I suppose, but you get a 16-ton weight, a cat medal, a second 16-ton weight, and a nice shortcut. Now, I like just use that 16-ton weight against level 2 enemies. It's not helpful for me to use the 16-ton weight against the ice dragon, not ice dragon, the water dragon, if I have a sweeper, well, the only sweeper can fire 16-ton weights, and also hit water dragons into their small form in one go. But if I have the ultimate sweeper, there's no benefit to hitting a water dragon with a 16-ton weight because it'll just revert to its small form regardless of what piece of trash I use. So I like to use it against the more powerful things instead. But that's why I recommended in the first video that you use the ultimate sweeper for this stuff anyways, because it means you can get all of the little conveniences instead of having to pick and choose between getting rid of that that water dragon, excuse me, quickly, or being able to take that shortcut. Rewinds are particularly nice here because, even though you can skip this part like I did here, if you happen to mess up on that part, you're not going to be able to get past it unless you use a rewind. But I did use that little trick I had mentioned before where I jump onto it and then do a double jump afterwards to get past the section that breaks. Also, I just have some fun sliding around here because for some reason the game doesn't make you stop sliding. Now, this is the portion where I say you really need to be careful about your trash. Because even though you can run back into the previous area and pick up some trash, if you can't use a rewind, if you don't have one on hand, you won't be able to get back here, since that slide rope. So it's possible if you don't have a rewind that you're trapped here as is. So what you need to pay attention to here is your very limited supply of trash. You can see there's not actually much here. It's not a bad idea to use a rewind. However, if you want to get some more trash, one thing you can do is try to get rid of this guard door. But I couldn't quite figure out where it went. Get rid of this guard door and that'll open things up. And get some more trash in the other area, along with a spiker. And do not be afraid to just let this Octobloon and Dust Herder generate some trash for you, because if you need trash, you need trash. Even if you have to wait a little bit for it, unfortunately. But in either case, there's some more trash to pick up out here. I highly recommend you use it, because there are just so many enemies in such a small place. And it's not too unlikely you'll eventually waste some as well, as you can see I've done. Try to always leave yourself some spare trash too. And I heavily recommend saving the Octobloon and Dust Herder for last. Kill the Spiker and Typhoon for it, along with the guard door. See, now, if I happen to lose anything, lose any trash that I would like to kill something with, and I can just have it generate some more trash for me, which is what I'm trying to do here. It's unfortunately kind of slow and tedious trying to coax them into generating trash for you, but it is worth it if it means completing level when you won't otherwise. It would be faster, of course, not to waste the trash at all, but fortunately, life is not always quite so simple. Just make sure you have a spare piece of trash control on you at all times here. And all should be okay, so long as you keep around the enemies that you need to keep around. And have a nice little fun slide onto the gold ring, because you earned it. And get that S rank. So, not any worries about finishing this all with a ton of trash you didn't need like you did in stage 1, which is both nice and not so nice. Also, I believe the only S run that I actually happened to collect a cat medal in, but I may be wrong about that. Anyways, yet again, remember how I keep saying, look off the ledges, because Everwinter is so fun putting cat medals in those places. Oh, hi turtle. But also, Everwinter Stage 3 is really strange is that it has all its cat medals in one place. So off that one ledge, right by the turtle, then you just jump down below the turtle, you can find another medal there. We're off to the left, as you saw, you can pick up the 60-ton weight, then behind that we have another cat medal. And then there's actually one more thing to get that is not so obviously connected to all the other cat medals, but if you jump down to this platform, not quite platform, but you can jump down here from the goal ring. Aside from just having a place to run around in, some other trash, which again isn't quite useful since you would have presumably already killed everything at this point. You can run on up here, and if you happen to want to return to the previous area, this is a way of doing that too, although I don't know if I want to. You can pick up this medal here. So it does turn out that this fourth medal isn't actually connected to the other ones, but it's something to do. Just try not to fall in the hole. If you happen to go through that door, though, I don't know why you go through that door. Alright, I usually consider this one of the most annoying bosses of the game, and I still do. But it happens to be a lot more manageable, like the other bosses, with a bunch of spike bullets. This one only has 7 HP, so I didn't need to bring along 4 spike bullets. However, it was actually a pretty good idea, it turns out, because if you do not have 4 trash on hand when you enter the fight, that means you're going to have to rely on the ice roller actually giving you trash, which is not necessarily going to happen in a timely manner. I do try to coax it into destroying platforms that are not useful anymore by standing only on platforms that don't have anything edible on them anymore. And I do call the ice roller's bluffs every now and then when it just decides to show its head off in one corner. It's not impossible when it taunts you like, it's not invincible when it taunts you like that. So you can just use a pause and smack it in the face. And I'm not above using a pause and losing some time to do that, because I do feel it's pretty time efficient. despite the fact you have to sit around for a little bit. Again, just how I destroy something you don't need. Try to stay away from the ice bits on the platforms too, because the ice molar really does like eating those bits and just biting you through them. Anyhow, that aside, standing on another platform. One really nice thing about using the spike bolts here is also that because you're doing double damage, it kind of messes up the flow of the fight, and you actually have a lot more of the platform available to you than you normally would by this point in the fight at the end as well. So it makes things a lot easier to navigate, but it doesn't stop me from falling off into the water because of darn ice physics. But oh well, not an issue since retries don't lose you any time, which is nice. But I didn't actually have to wait for the ice molar to shoot any trash at me for me to suck up and use myself. I didn't have to wait for it to shoot out any of those platforms it likes to eat either. So it was actually very efficient having all my own trash that I brought. And I essentially halved, well, less than halved the time that I needed to get the S rank. So it worked out rather well. So that is going to be it for the second final episode of the BLiNX 100% walkthrough. I will, of course, continue in the final episode in the Forge of Hours, which will be, oh, so fun indeed.